Hello folks, welcome to Inktober Day 6. Today's prompt is Penelope, another figure from the Trojan War. I'm very excited about this one because I think it's my favourite so far. I really like the colour palette and the fact that my vision for it kind of came real, unlike some of the others. So yeah, I will show you what I did. I just recorded this voiceover and then I realised that it didn't record. So here we are again. Hopefully I'll be well practiced at this point. So here we have Penelope, hooray! And I'll talk a bit about Penelope's story, but first of all I want to say a bit about what I'm doing here, which was adding in a hand, which was not in my original line drawing, but that's okay. I managed to put it in. I think it looks all right. And also in the background, I did have this quite literal sort of story going on with a boat in the background and a sunset, and it was going to be all very colourful and quite complicated, and I threw all of that out and decided, no, actually I'm going to make this simpler in many ways, and I'm really glad I did actually, because I think this is a lot more me. It looks much more like a piece of my work, and that's something I'm sort of discovering and yeah, seeing as I go with this is sort of figuring out what is it that makes a Holly Dunn design piece and how can I do that in this medium. I've said before about trying to make my digital art look more traditional, but now I feel like I'm going back and trying to make my traditional art look like my digital art. So it's sort of the two play off of each other in quite an interesting way, and there's a leap forward in one, and then I have to kind of catch up with the other. And yeah, since sort of making some fairly big leaps forward, I guess, in digital art, I've struggled a bit actually with this challenge, mostly with the colors, to be honest, because when you're working digitally, you don't have to think about the colors until you get to the end, and with this, I have to think about the colors ahead of time, and it's hard. It's really hard. I've always found colors to be the most difficult thing about creating an illustration or a book cover, and yeah, everything else is a lot easier in many ways, although I'm also challenging myself with the whole drawing figures and having characters in the pieces. But yeah, that's probably the hardest thing so far. So with this, I really pared it back, decided to keep it simple. I'm very glad I did, because what I had planned was much more elaborate and I don't think it would have worked nearly as well. So yeah, really pleased with how this one turned out. And I think this black really works well for Penelope. She's sort of grieving, but also she's waiting and hopeful for her husband to return. And yeah, so she is the wife of Odysseus, who is one of the key players in the Trojan War. And he's basically the one who allowed the Greeks to get out of their stalemate and win the Trojan War. So yeah, we're on the opposite side to Cassandra here, and yeah, Penelope is patiently waiting for her husband to return from war, and then he doesn't. He decides to go gallivanting across the Mediterranean in the adventures known as the Odyssey, and poor Penelope is stuck waiting. Everyone kind of assumes that Odysseus is dead, but she doesn't want to remarry. She's sort of seen as this very loyal figure in mythology, and that's kind of what she represents, which she is, but that kind of bothers me a bit, because she would have been in every, within her rights 100% to remarry, and it's the fact that she doesn't, and that she holds on to the past, that she isn't punished by her husband when he returns, unlike everybody else who he does punish in some way, in some quite horrible ways when he returns. So yeah, I'm not a big fan of that double standard, because obviously Odysseus goes on all these adventures, and he has affairs with various women goddesses across the Mediterranean, including Circe, and it just rubs me up the wrong way, guys. So yeah, but the other thing about Penelope that she's known for is being as clever as her husband, by which I mean that she, in order to get rid of the suitors or to keep them at bay, she says that she is weaving this shroud, and she will only consider marriage or remarriage once this shroud is finished. But every night she unravels the shroud and starts again from scratch. So it's quite a clever ploy until somebody realizes what she's doing and gets cross about it. But yeah, that's kind of her her thing is being clever. Like, isn't she clever for a woman? So yeah, I like her, but I find her story quite frustrating. Just because of that double standard. And I know, yeah, it was ancient Greek times and all, but yeah, as a modern audience, it is a little bit irritating. But anyway, what I'm doing with this piece here is trying to represent that shroud and also the feeling of entrapment that Penelope feels. So we've got this kind of thorny pattern happening in the background, which is a little bit like the Persephone one, where it's got this kind of threatening feel to it. And then also, if you can see up the top of the screen, if I get my face out of the way, there is a needle, which is not exactly how she would be weaving the shroud, but you know, it's artistic license, representational. So yeah, we've got that up the top, and then these threads going around her, and I've also made parts of her dress kind of look like they might be unraveling, which I haven't yet got to in the, we'll get to it in a moment. But yeah, I love this dip pen so much. I think I've said that in previous videos, but I'm starting to be able to control it a little bit better, although you can see there's a bit of a blob under her nose, between her hand and her nose, which I had to go back in and fix with a bit of black over the top. And I've also managed to smudge it. If you look on the bottom right hand corner where her hand is, I've smudged a whole lot of the copper ink. So well done, Holly. That's all right. I went in and fixed it. It wasn't anywhere too important. But yeah, I just did a lot of patterny, squiggly, make it up as you go kind of thing. Yeah, these are the bits that are sort of unraveling a little bit. It reminds me of overlocking stitching, actually, which is a bit anachronistic, but that's okay. Yeah, people stitch in different ways. It's okay. It's fine. And yeah, we're nearly through this. Just the finishing touches. It's just knowing when to stop sometimes. But I'm actually quite glad I added these little extra bits of stitching around the background as well. Just balances it out. And here we go. Here's the final piece. Like I said, I'm really pleased with this one. And I think this is the first one where I felt like I had done what I'd set out to do, which is a nice feeling. So here we have the most satisfying bit. If I can get this bit of tape off, which is looking difficult, I'm sorry. Please bear with me. I swear it's very satisfying once I actually, yes! This is one of my favourite things in the world. Taking masking tape off of a piece of artwork. How satisfying is that? Especially because I haven't used Copics around the outside, so it doesn't bleed out and it looks great. It's all clean and it makes my soul very happy. And then we do the other side as well. I feel like we should just hang around and wait. You can see how, yes. It's like watching those videos of people doing beautiful calligraphy and things on the internet. There's something just very satisfying about it. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. Whee! So that was Penelope. How exciting. One thing that I didn't mention in the voiceover was the hand and why I decided to put that hand in, especially as I had planned something else. So I looked back at the history of art and the way that Penelope has been portrayed, and there's this ancient Greek vase where she has her hand in that sort of position, and that's been something of a motif for Penelope over time throughout art history. So I decided that I would adopt that, and it would be yet another little signifier of her character and all of that. So yeah, that is why. I'm sorry if the audio in this was a little bit off. I have been struggling to get my audio to sound right on using my new computer. For some reason there's a little rattle and it's driving me a bit bonkers. But anyway, tomorrow's prompt is Apollo, god of the sun and of music. So yeah, I will see you then for that one, the first god that I've done. Most of them are goddesses or mortals who are women. So yeah, let's see if I can draw a man. Who knows?